Hey everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and also a big welcome to the concept of World of Tanks. Yeah, look, this is the Tier 9 American heavy tank. It's called the Concept 1B, and it was just awarded to everyone who managed to finish ranked over the last year. You have battled it out for 3 seasons to be able to get a hold of a Tier 9 American reward heavy tank, but unlike the A Phase 1, this vehicle doesn't have a premium consumable as default. That's fine, I guess people who have got used to slinging gold rounds in ranked aren't going to mind about having to spend the extra credits on a repair kit, right? So this vehicle I've talked about a couple of times on this channel, but it has been a year, right? We've been slugging it out on the ranked battlefields for a year to be able to get this tank. So let me give you a refresher course, and also let me update you now that I've actually managed to have a good chunk of games in this tank, both on my free-to-play account and also on my main account. For my free-to-play account, this was a first. I've never managed to complete ranked. I've finished silver in one season, gold in the next, and then silver in the most recent season of ranked, showing that it is possible to still do well without firing any premium round, well, any premium consumables. And I think I fired about 5 premium rounds in the hundreds. Well, there's several hundred games that I played across all of the different seasons of ranked. It was a little bit heavy, and I did definitely rely on a few high explosive rounds now and again when I was playing in the 60 TP. Maybe something that Wargaming is looking to take out of the game, the ability to compete without firing gold in a 60 TP, at least unless you're able to pen with the armor piercing rounds on the tank. And as many people will know, that is not a thing that happens all the time in ranked when you don't have that luxury. You've got to sling the gold at long distance at a tank like an IS-7, for example, or when you have lots of turreted tanks which seem to just have thicker and thicker and thicker armor these days, or more and more bizarre armor layouts like on this, the Concept 1B. Look, I digress. I don't really want to focus on the whole pay-to-win aspect of World of Tanks, or the fact that, but let's just say it like this. I have noticed that more by playing ranked completely free-to-play on this account than I think I ever have done in my 10 years of playing World of Tanks now in its release, and I guess my 11 years if you're thinking about also having played the closed beta as well. So the Concept 1B, the reward for finishing your ranked season. I got it on both accounts, and I'm going to play it slightly differently on both accounts as well. On my free-to-play account, I'm going to be using a gun rammer, vents, and I'm also going to be using vertical stabilizers because I don't have the added advantages of having a premium consumable. I don't have an exceptionally skilled crew with things like snapshot and smooth ride on my driver. At least yet, I'm hoping that one day the crew that I got from the Renegade with Brothers in Arms as a 0 skill crew, and I have no idea what this lever is doing here, but I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and let them push forwards. Maybe to their demise, we'll have to see in a second. So I don't really have all of the advantages on this account, and so I think that I really need the extra gun handling. This vehicle's gun handling with 0.14 dispersion when moving and 0.08 when turning the turret is not bad at all for a heavy tank. And more importantly, the vehicle has, I think it's 2.3 seconds aim time, which is pretty darn decent. It will allow the vehicle to be able to snap shots in, and it doesn't really have to aim for all too much considering it's a tier 9 heavy tank with a nice meaty 400 alpha damage 110mm gun. Now that's a weird one. It doesn't really provide you with too much of a difference. I guess 120mm is going to be able to overmatch all 39mm plates, whereas I guess this thing is actually going to probably overmatch, you know, your 36mm plates. There aren't really too many differences there. You'd have to find some very specific examples for that to happen, but it does. However, the advantage of having APCR rounds on this tank actually gives you a tremendous advantage, and you can just see how we're able to snap these shots in at fast moving targets. These APCR rounds have got 1,478 meters a second shell velocity, and they just feel absolutely wonderful. This tank is also, it's not the most accurate at 0.38, but it's not bad. The accuracy on the vehicle is not horrific. It does feel like you can snipe, yeah, fairly well, and I think it's the shell velocity that really makes up for just the mediocre accuracy, depending on what you think a tier 9 heavy tank is meant to be doing, right? My best games in this vehicle have been where obviously I'm dominating a ridgeline. The vehicle has 10 degrees of gun depression, and the frontal armor on the turret is also decent as well. They can manage to catch the top of the tank here, this bar behind the commander's vision system, or whoever's going to be looking out the top of the vehicle. But all in all, can you imagine trying to deal with this thing's turret? It is a pretty big nightmare if the vehicle's using its gun depression. Of course, the vehicle doesn't become too useful when it's caught out in the open, but finding this position here on Prokhorovka is really going to give us a tremendous advantage. We're able to lock down the cap circle. I'm also able to go up and provide clap shots, or should I say snapshots, to clap the tanks on the top of the hill. And I was really worried in this game, because usually Prokhorovka is all about creating a crossfire. It's all about, oh, that's a shame that we let that 430 live. Maybe that's going to come back to haunt us, or maybe not, as the 416 shuts them down. It's all about creating a crossfire on this map. What you want to do is you want to have some vehicles in the center, and then the vehicles in the center up here are going to be shooting across at the hill. And whoa! Looks like we just shut down the G-Sword talking about the hill. So your tanks over from this location need to provide crossfire on vehicles like the Pantera. They need to fire up at vehicles that are hiding in these bushes here. And this isn't going to be happening because we don't have anybody in the middle of the map. And so this is actually allowing the enemy team to gain quite a lot of, should we say, a strong point on top of the hill, and also allowing them to just play aggressively down towards the cap circle like what the Pantera is doing here. But we're showing our marksmanship with the Concept 1B, hitting our shots clean, and we're already up to 4,500 damage. I will say that one of the most disappointing things about this tank is the fairly low damage per minute. 2,181 base damage per minute just doesn't really feel like you can deal with fast, frenetic engagements. That's really where this tank was losing out. And if you are seeing a lot of these on the battlefield, don't let them dictate the pace of the combat. You really need to try and pressure them. Sure, if you can trade 1 for 1 and you've got higher alpha damage, do that. But really, if you can just get them into all-in-all, how did that one not go into the Pantera? Must have hit some kind of a weird building there. That one looked like that was going right towards their turret. If you can try and pressure them in high damage per minute medium tanks, I found that is definitely one of the most brutal things for the Concept to have to deal with. So even though we're up to 5,200 damage now, we've only secured our second kill of the game. We're turning our hull and we're turning our turret to try and find the Bat Chatillon. But again, our poor DPM stops us from being able to put a round into the tier 8 French light tank. And talk about tier 8 French light tanks, the world's most annoying tank. The Bourrasque comes, damages our gun, but that still doesn't stop us from shutting down the Pantera. And what now, Mr. Bourrasque? Maybe you just managed to do 720 damage to my vehicle, but I'm going to take you out of this game. But you know, it's probably actually one of the things that the Bourrasque should be doing. They're putting pressure on us. Maybe the Bourrasque thinks that we're just going to let them cap. Well, here's the other thing that this vehicle does exceptionally well, and that is that it's fast. It's able to get into position, and with 10 seconds left on the cap, we're going to use our 45 km/h top speed limit to be able to race to get in with 4 seconds left, and now try and hunt down the Carnarvon or try and hunt down the 257. Maybe we get shot in the butt by the IS-6. Black Edition on the hill there. Whatever, we saved the game, and we've given our team a chance, but we're down to a one-shot here for the IS-6 if he's able to catch us 50% of the time. We miss our first shell of the game against the Bat Chatillon 12T. Maybe my adrenaline is flowing right now, but we can't afford to miss many more shots. If we do, in this close game where we're down by over 1,800 hit points here, and we're down by a single tank, this isn't going to go well. Well, I guess it is going to go well if I put a shell into the Bat Chatillon. They try to be a French lemming over the cliff and crush the other 690 hit points that their vehicle has, and we put another round into the 257, securing our top gun for our 6,000 damage dealt this game. And I was feeling pretty chipper about this, but I'm trying to avoid the artillery. I don't want to get hit here. Don't allow the T-95 or the UTES to be able to establish a position. And in this kind of a scenario, it's about trying to lock down different flanks. The Borsig wants me to cap, and while I think that'll be a good thing to do in some scenarios, I also think that with the 5 minutes that we have left, if we just have one tank capping, but we use the other vehicles to be able to control flanks, I think that's probably going to be our best bet right now. I don't want to turn this into a situation where a T-95 establishes itself on a flank and then drives towards us slowly. How am I going to deal with that T-95? Or alternatively, if we allow the UDES to be able to play long range. Talking about the UDES being able to play long range, luckily I had eyes on that flank. We knew what the UDES was going to do, but unfortunately I get spotted, so I'm gonna hightail it out of the cap circle right now and try and avoid the artillery. And look how mobile this tank is. Its traverse speed is actually really good indeed, and we're able to wiggle left, wiggle right. Artillery doesn't actually take a shot at us, and the 50 TP on top of the hill finishes off the UDES. Okay, so now with 2 minutes left on the cap, I'm going to let the Borsig finish it off, and I'm going to make sure that I don't allow the T-95 to kind of get into this strong position where they're going to be able to roll towards us, and then possibly artillery's going to splash us. It's an M53-55. Those kind of vehicles hit you very hard indeed. So what I want to do in this scenario is I don't actually want to poke up on the ridgeline. If I poke up on the ridgeline, there's a T-95 here, then the artillery may splash us. What I want to do is actually be on this side of the ridge where I'll have a little bit of protection from artillery. And my plan was that if I do get spotted, to go and try and use these trains here to try be a little bit safe. But now that I know that the T-95 is in the center of the map, that just means that we're able to push over and hopefully find the shot into the back of the American heavy tank, securing our 7th kill, putting our damage total over 7,000, and oh my word, this is my first game I'd played in this vehicle that I sweated to be able to achieve on my free-to-play account, and I felt pretty darn good about it. So right now it looks like the Borsig's got a minute left to be able to cap. I'm just going to go and try and hunt down the artillery, because I doubt that the artillery is going to be able to kill me. Maybe I'm a little bit greedy and I want to try and catch the Radley Walters medal, but my mind just got blown there that the Borsig decided that they didn't want to cap. I now click the cap circle. I guess a little bit hypocritical, but I'm not the one who only had 1 minute left to be able to cap this game. And now we've actually got ourselves in a fairly awkward situation where if we don't cap, and the artillery manages to hide for the next 3 minutes. And look, let's be honest, there are a lot of different bushes that they could be hiding in Prokhorovka, that this artillery is actually going to turn what was a guaranteed win into a draw. Let's hope that we haven't just snatched a draw from the jaws of victory. Doesn't really work out like that, does it? Look, I'm loading an HE round. Want to try and find the M53-55 because I was thinking Radley Walters. I've secured one of the corners and I'm going to make my way along here. That artillery will be able to spot me. I'm a heavy tank with not very good camo rating when I'm moving, and even though their view range won't be very high, I should be able to find where the artillery is when my sixth sense goes off. And if they manage to kill me, well, at least the 50 TP or the Borsig's going to be able to handle them as well. So right now, it's just about where he is. There's the artillery. We're aiming, and oh, Captain Borsig snapshots the shell there, and we don't get our Radley Walters, but I couldn't really care. Radley Walters medal's always nice to be able to pick up those 8 kills, but one thing's even nicer, and that is smashing out a huge game in your first ever round in the Concept 1B on an account that you grinded on in the most competitive game mode, ranked in World of Tanks, without resorting to premium round spam and premium consumables. But as I say that, also let me clarify, it would have been a hell of a lot easier if I had, that's for sure. And would I encourage other people to do the same? Oh, well, one thing's for certain, it's almost impossible to lose credits if you do manage to have a premium account that you manage to get for free by participating in ranked when you're playing that way, when Wargaming are also throwing lots of credits, lots of premium consumables and everything at you throughout your progress in ranked. But on the other hand, you might be sacrificing a little bit of your sanity and also a significant amount of your time, because there will be games where you would have got that chevron if you fired those gold rounds, or if you had used the premium consumable to extend your view range, or to pump up your DPM to be able to finish off that extra vehicle. And so don't think that in this pay-to-win game, well, at least I'd say about 10 or 20% pay-to-win in World of Tanks, that if you choose not to pay, that you aren't sacrificing something. Usually, when it comes down to it, it's your time. So we smashed an ace tank here with a high caliber for the 7,000 damage that we dealt, and a top gun for our 7 kills. And wow, yeah, playing without a premium account, is that how hard it is to make a profit at tier 9? Yeah, we made 5,000 credits, and that was after firing every single one of our APCR rounds, running out of ammunition, and then being forced to fire the high explosive anti-tank rounds that you probably save that if you were having to deal with something like an E100 or a mouse, right? So all in all, the concept 1B, a fast, powerful ridgeline warrior that isn't going to cut its way through a situation very quickly. But yeah, it's a bit of a tick. It's a hard one to dig out when it's managed to get into one of those scenarios. My recommendation if you end up playing one of these vehicles is to firstly be careful. It's likely that the player inside the tank, as it is a ranked reward vehicle right now, maybe it's sold for bonds in the future, but at least for now, to be able to get this tank, you had to prove yourself in ranked. So the player inside is likely to be average or certainly above average in World of Tanks. So give them respect. But also, not too much respect, because the vehicle's thoroughly mediocre damage per minute means that you can pressure it in a lot of tanks, especially in autoloaders. Go round, put a couple of rounds in the Borask, go in a Skoda T50, put 3 rounds into it. If you're in an E100, try and outtrade its mediocre alpha damage of 400 without too much of a worry of it firing multiple rounds at you and really chunking down your hit points. However, if you leave one of these on a ridgeline and you don't pressure it, yeah, I think I showed just how much they're going to start to chip in to the overall hit points of your team. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was the concept 1B of World of Tanks. I really hope you enjoyed the video today. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know in the comments if you have seen a ton of these on the battlefield. Have they been performing well? And also, did you manage to get your hands on one? What do you think of the tank? And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.